Now to a truly bizarre murder case involving a former school principal in Arlington in the adult video industry. I want to warn you before this airs, if you have younger kids in the room, this might be a story you don't want them to hear. With that said, David Schechter joins us in the newsroom with an update.
Hey, Chris, so there are a lot of layers to this case. It involves three people, a man named Jeffrey Rogers, his wife Tammy, and the victim, a woman named Tracy Jones. So let's go now. Here is Jeffrey's mugshot from the Tarrant County Jail. Documents show he admitted to murdering the victim, Tracy Jones, in June. And here's where the twists begin. Jeffrey owned a business where he made pornography with his wife. Investigators say he paid Tracy Jones, the victim, to be involved in the adult videos. At the time, Jeffrey's wife was a principal in Arlington ISD. After Tracy Jones reported to a TV station and Arlington ISD that the principal was involved, Jones's relationship with that couple ended. His wife, the principal, resigned from Arlington ISD. But investigators said Jeffrey continued to see Jones, and on June 15th, surveillance video shows Jeffrey buying a heavy-duty storage box from a Lowe's in Burleson. Investigators say the next day, Jeffrey told his wife he was going to see Jones to pay her some more money. That's when investigators say Jeffrey got scared of Tracy Jones and killed her and locked her body in the heavy-duty box. That investigators say Jeffrey loaded that box into his truck and drove to Kentucky with his wife for a previously planned trip. Once they got there, investigators say Jeffrey dumped the box into a lake, but according to documents, his wife had no idea about the body. In fact, Tammy told investigators she thought it was a cooler with drinks for the trip. After he was arrested and brought back to Texas, Jeffrey Rogers asked to meet with investigators, and that's when he admitted to murder. He said Tammy had no part in it, and she has not been charged with any crime, Chris.
Thank you very much.